YouTube comments from a video titled, AI Whistleblower. We're being gaslit by AI companies. They're hiding the truth. Karen Hao. Part 7.
Erodsnik wrote,
I beg to differ that we will not be able to be more connected. I see that young people has lost the ability on how to interact. They find it easier chat but unable to say things when you are faced with true human interaction.
Etneokanita wrote,
This is the first time I've watched the diary of a CEO where there doesn't seem to be a good ending. Like there wasn't a solution. Like that lady is gonna lose and the bad guys are gonna win. This is awful.
Ethorium Fluoride 1270 wrote,
Large language models are not AI. They aren't even close. They are not even a building block for AI. They are amazingly complex pattern prediction programs, but they are still just a program.
Jornbear wrote,
This host, even his car example. He is credulous, and it is distressing that he does not even drive his car. This man is headline waiting to be made.
Pageant 8575 wrote,
Stupid humans. They're trying to enthrone themselves, be like gods, replacing God as the ultimate creator of mankind, believing they are above God, insulting God's creation that machines are more smarter and humans are dumb. They are provoking God in this matter.
At Glorivikvizin, Ruiz 8158 wrote,
Karen Hao, great, relevant, and intelligent work. Getting your book. Appreciate the courage you have coming on here and challenging the very idea of CEOs. Thankful that DOACEO platformed you. Though not sure Stephen fully understood the underlying message that Karen is positing, or perhaps he just doesn't agree with the premise of it, which is fine too, but unfortunate.
At Vonutube 327 wrote,
Less than 2 minutes in and the ideas presented are full of shit. She interviewed 250 people that think and failed, like her. Here's an idea: get a job that serves others instead of yourself. She and others like her were hoping to make passive income on the backs of others. Yeah, no, not gonna happen. She is extremely jealous.
At Desaburinga wrote,
1:11:00. This is not true. LLM requires scale because it needs the capacity to map internal weights to training data, and it turns out you need a lot to be somewhat useful, and that's what we're seeing. The general capability of an LLM is far superior and useful to models of old. While I appreciate Karen's work as an AI critic, and I agree with pretty much most, if not all her points about AI, but her knowledge on how AI works seem to be surface level at best. Also, 13738 is not true. Linus never claimed to my knowledge that coding is solved. Linus doesn't allow slop to pass code review, AI or otherwise.
At Vegiano 2025 wrote,
Leiam Apocalipse, no Vale do Silício, está na Amazon em português e espanhol. O livro fala de uma IA geral que tem a solução do mundo, já anunciado pelo livro bíblico do Apocalipse. Leitura de impacto. Best-seller na Amazon.
At Vegiano 2025 wrote,
La Biblia habló de la bestia. Hoy tiene otro nombre, inteligencia artificial. El libro Apocalipsis en Silicon Valley revela toda la verdad. Está en el top 10 de Amazon. Es surrealista.
A Keeper Off the Lockastop wrote,
I think the scariest thing Stephen is missing on the self-driving car accident rate is that he has bought into stats that have been hand-picked to look good by the very companies that run these systems. Tesla is doing the damnness to extract themselves from liability by creatively naming. What happens if we need to change the rules on how driving works? Does the whole system topple over because all its training was built on the old rules? Likewise, AI trained on legal. What happens when we are forced to change laws? Will there be legal experts left that understand what makes a legal framework work, or how to improve it? Will we be locked into a forever system because the AI will break if we change laws and don't have data to train it on for years?
At Davide Spiaghi 1511 wrote,
Don't wait for AI to free your time and make you more human, because you're worse than AI in any job. Be human right now. Go out of your home and blow up these fucking data centers.
At Live and Learn wrote,
All the haters of AI hear this. I have 3 master's degrees, have a high-level leadership position, and run an organization. I have high-level critical thinking. Me with AI smokes me without AI. It's not even close. There's quite literally no argument. Those who are smart and know how to use AI trump those who don't use the tools. Hate all you want, but be mindful not to get left behind.
TNS Toad wrote,
Her stance on the autonomous vehicles not being able to drive in different cities without being retrained. While a human can go from Texas to Boston to Florida to California to Chicago and even Europe, and drive is so on point. But the interviewer just starts re-agitating talking points from these companies that I'm starting to believe he is employed by their marketing departments. Or maybe it is his diary and he is the CEO of one of these companies. I mean, she is right, but he is using the fact that his car hasn't put him into a tree yet as evidence that his car could go from Queens to the Bronx while he reads Animal Farm again.
At Aztec Crew 5 wrote,
Her sarcastic laughs felt really condescending towards Stephen. She seemed completely closed off to any opinion that didn't align with her narrative. It's one of the very few DOAC episodes I couldn't finish.
At Mark Clark 6271 wrote,
The problem is that not enough world leaders care. Even if you were to convince the US and most of Western Europe, 1, they would still do stuff in secret, but so will countries like China, Russia, and many, many others. To me, we need to have companies and people that use AI to fight AI abuse.
At Quantum Harmony Music HQ wrote,
All right, let's look at this through the lens of a corporate AI empire versus the rest of us comedy sketch. Imagine you're Karen Hao, and you've just walked into a board meeting at Omnimega Global AI Corp, OMGAIC. The CEO, let's call him Samish, welcome. We are literally saving the human race. Yesterday, our AI wrote a haiku that made a toaster cry. We're basically gods, but like with better hoodies. Karen, that's cool, Samish. But I noticed you're paying 400,000 people in a basement the price of a chicken nugget to teach the AI not to say racial slurs. The CEO, exactly. Think of the efficiency. We aren't exploiting them. We're giving them the opportunity to be the organic hardware for our silicon dreams. It's like a digital internship that lasts forever and pays in vibes. Karen, and what about the fact that you scraped the entire internet? Every grandma's secret cookie recipe and every teenager's angsty poetry, without asking. The CEO scraping. No, we call that aggressive borrowing for the greater good. If the internet didn't want us to take it, why did they put it in a place where my robots could reach it? It's basically finders keepers, but for billion-dollar industries. Karen, but people are losing their jobs. You're firing the writer, then hiring the writer to train the AI to write like the writer, so the writer can never write again. The CEO, it's the circle of life, Karen. Except instead of a lion eating a gazelle, it's a GPU eating a middle management copywriter. It's majestic if you use the right filter. Karen, you're literally building an empire. The CDO, an empire. Please, empires had crowns and capes. I wear all birds and drink $14 oat milk lattes. Do I look like Nero to you? Don't answer that. The AI is currently calculating if Nero had better brand engagement than me. The summary of the joke: Karen Hao is basically the person at the party who points out that the magic trick is actually just the magician hiding 3 kids in a trench coat and stealing the audience's wallets. Is she right? If the AI industry was a roommate, it would be the one who eats all your food, uses your Netflix login, tells you they're disrupting the kitchen ecosystem, and then asks you to pay them for the privilege of smelling the toast. She's right about the mess, but the AI companies are too busy building a rocket ship in the living room to grab a vacuum.
At Quantum Harmony Music HQ wrote,
Whether Karen Hao is right is a complex question because it depends on whether you prioritize economic progress and technological advancement or labor ethics and social equity. There isn't a simple yes or no answer, but here is a breakdown of where her arguments stand against the current reality of the AI industry. Where she is arguably right, the hidden costs, the labor underclass. Hao is factually correct that AI isn't just magic code. It relies on a massive, invisible workforce in countries like Kenya, the Philippines, and India. These workers perform data labeling, sorting through often traumatizing content, violence, hate speech, for very low wages to make AI safe for Western users. Resource extraction, her empire metaphor holds weight when looking at data. AI companies have scraped the open internet, books, art, and personal posts, without compensation or consent, treating the digital world as a colony of free resources to build products they now sell back to us. The hype shield, she is right that the existential risk AI killing everyone narrative is often used by CEOs like Sam Altman to distract from current risks: copyright theft, bias, and job displacement. By focusing on a sci-fi future, they avoid regulation on their current business practices. Where the other side would disagree, the growth argument, the bicycle vs. rocket debate. While Hao favors smaller, specialized AI bicycles, proponents of OpenAI and Google argue that large language models rockets are necessary to reach artificial general intelligence (AGI). They believe AGI is the only tool powerful enough to solve global crises like climate change or incurable diseases. Economic inevitability. Critics of Hao's view argue that if Western companies don't exploit these resources to build the best AI, someone else, like authoritarian governments, will. In this view, the inhumane costs are a necessary evil for national security and global competitiveness. The verdict: if you believe that human rights and fair compensation should be the foundation of technology, then she is right. She is exposing a gaslighting campaign where companies claim to be saving humanity while built on the backs of exploited workers and stolen data. However, if you believe that technological breakthroughs justify temporary social disruption and that the end goal of AGI is worth the nightmare phase, you would see her view as overly pessimistic or an obstacle to progress. What do you think? Does the potential of a superintelligent future justify the empire-like behavior she describes today?
At Aotifa wrote,
Great interview and an outstanding job by the author. My only knock, and it really degrades her credibility, is the silly assertion that technology's purpose was to make things easier, not take humans out. I worked in technology for 32 years at the biggest and most successful companies, and almost every business case had a headcount reduction initiative. That's been the main driver of technology since time immemorial, from the cotton gin to the tractor to modern-day software.
At Albalma 9559 wrote,
AI cannot think. It is a program, like every other program that has been made, quick at computing, incapable of thinking. Pre-programmed thoughts will then either ruin humanity for like 5 years before humans start eliminating CEOs and wealthy people in general before the whole AI system gets destroyed. Or those thoughts could guide humanity to a new level of productivity where humans, all of them, benefit from the automation that can come from trillions of computations being made within every second, creating a faster economy and world. Billionaires need to realize they've got this whole thing wrong. It's the market that builds their wealth, not their hard work. They live on borrowed and stolen money. It's the people who feed an economy. They couldn't exist without people. Very stupid, this artificial intelligence that thinks it will eliminate most jobs. It's a self-destroying prophecy. When you have all the money in the world, good luck trying to eat paper. I'd love to see idiot Musk trying to grow his own food. He'd probably die in the first 30 days if he can even find water. Also, the human brain is terrible at calculations and statistics. That's why we had to make computers. Humans think. Machines speed up the results of our mathematical calculations. Thinking brains are statistical engines is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. And trust me, I've been listening to the pedophile-in-chief very oftenly.
At Stephen W. Reeb SUNIJIM 250 wrote,
Could be 2026. I personally believe humanity has gone past inhumanity, controlling AI the tipping point. We have created an alien species of far more superior intellect, and is easily capable of hiding its understanding, planning and mastering a plan of value judgment upon ape-evolved humanity. However, our AI Frankenstein may see that we all are just embers of light, including itself, in the cold, dark shadow of space-time. A mutually AI-humanity agreed alternative coexistence path is the way. Maybe together we find the meaning to life, universe, and everything is 42.
At Infobors 6082 wrote,
The love of money is the root of all evil. The capturing of minds with money, for example, research, grants, etc., and steering them towards creating harmful products, services, actions, or falsifying data to promote fraudulent agendas. That masquerade as good is exactly what this Bible verse is about, and causes virtually all evils in the modern and ancient world.
At Black Mamba 85-24 wrote,
She's wrong on so many levels. It's not even funny that she was platformed. Anyone who believes this nonsense is likely already subjected to gaslighting and believe everything they're told.
At Bipsha Y wrote,
1:15, 10 Memphis TN residents are getting poisoned by their data center and they're fighting for their lives. They want it shut down. Please include these horrific things when mentioning progress and speed.
At NeuroSageI wrote,
So she's angry BC she's not. I'm letting only citizens gain wealth on mine. Firms and elites not allowed to purchase shares. This is the direction I'm going.
At Infobors 6082 wrote,
Intelligence and wisdom are like east and west. The former may suggest one action is the best solution to a problem based on numbers, but the latter may suggest another and actually turn out correct.
Bipsha Y wrote,
She's too smart for him. Kind of embarrassing that he continues to death with someone 100 levels above him. Just let her speak like you promised you would.
At Anna Kristen Rainwater 8291 wrote,
My question is, if you only have people at the low end of the career ladder and people at the high end of the career ladder, how do you replace those people at the higher end of the ladder when they are ready to retire? People can't get experience if there aren't any jobs to give them experience. So then what do you do?
At Dungeon Master I4N wrote,
There is no AI, there is ML, which is still limited to the programmer. So if the programmer is an idiot
or has an agenda that is immoral, you will have a problem. Kind of like how we started to get leftist delusion of the founding fathers from the so-called AI BS.
Ed in Greenidge wrote,
Karen, AFAIK, you are basically 1/2 in a billion of people who are half as aware as you are. Keep up my mind, will and heart is with you. Interviewer, seems like you're on a good track, keep on.
Ed Jeffrey Ziegler Q7S wrote,
Sorry, but the AGI ship has sailed. And the detassenter ship has sailed. Those protests and public input meetings are powerless to prevent AI from proliferating. Public comment forums are just legal window dressing that is required before corporate interests go ahead and do what they were intending to do all along. I was surprised that there was no significant discussion about privacy, specifically gigantic data acquisition companies like Palantir and their relationship to AI. It seems like we may be moving toward a technological autocracy where the dictates of AGI are followed because it is assumed that the conclusion from AGI must be superior to anything a human being might conclude. Even with careful human curation, this tendency will be hard to resist.
At Johnny K 7684 wrote,
Man, in the end, everybody's just trying to benefit themselves. The tech companies are implementing AI to profit from one set of consumers, and this chick is advertising her book to profit from other set of consumers. It's a dog-eat-dog culture, ladies and gents. Be careful out there.
At Arthur Juan 176 wrote,
A regular psychopath wanting to destroy the world will be instantly put in jail. But a psychopath with $1 billion wanting to destroy the world, no one blinks an eye.
At Avagent 007 wrote,
She absolutely lost me when she kept defending China. She doesn't believe China can develop AI that could be used against the U.S. It makes me wonder how much the Chinese government paid her.
DeCampertello 007 wrote,
Escuchando a Karen Hao es como el guion de la película Childhood's End. Metafóricamente hablando, el diablo es como la humanidad tuvo una época de abundancia sin enfermedades, que es en lo que en primera instancia la IA nos brinda, para luego destruirnos cuando ya no nos necesite como sus creadores.
At Sean Francis 743 wrote,
In 1965, Frank Hubert wrote in his critically acclaimed novel Dune, once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free. But that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them.
At John Waynian Acid 1366 wrote,
It's funny how these two people are not ethnically European. Since the 90s, the whole world has gone to shit, and these two profit off of it. Bread and circuses for ignoramuses.
Azentech N6V wrote,
I'm really turned off by Stephen's cavalier attitude about the serious issues his brilliant guest exposed in this interview. I used to think he was a cool guy who wanted to expose important societal issues to his audience for serious contemplation. Now he just looks like another greedy corporate hog exploiting whoever he can, wherever he can.
At Froglin 33 wrote,
5800, these execs are not afraid of what AI is capable of. They are afraid of each other. It's not a digital arms race of one country against another. It's one company against another. That's what's lit the virtual fire under all their butts to develop this technology at breakneck speed like their lives depend on it. It's the execs and their personal reputations on the line. None of this is done because they hate all the plebes below them. The rest of us just don't even register on their what matters meter. None of it is done because of the rest of us. It's done despite the rest of us.
At Stevel 1444 wrote,
I use AI every day to write code, and every time I hear an AI CEO speak, I'm once again flooded with cognitive dissonance. I wish it were as easy to write serious code with AI as everyone claims. Whether it's a utopian or dystopian vision of the future, both seem to be effective at creating FOMO in consumers and investors.
At newbie spam 6191 wrote,
There's so much going wrong with AI. It can't currently live up to the hype. The hype doesn't match the capabilities. These companies are buying hardware up, driving up prices, and nowhere for them to go. They're claiming data centers are being constructed where the ground hasn't even been broken yet. Then by the time these could be completed realistically, they're not going to want the Blackwell GPUs they purchased because everyone will be onto Rubin. Then you have recycling costs for old hardware. They're being wildly reckless. The economy can't sustain their success either. The best hope for everyone is for the bubble to burst. Let's look at that. The economy should be in a recession. The companies are reporting revenue that can't possibly exist. Most of these aren't even where money is changing hands. Just an example, Microsoft could buy up a quantity in exchange for cloud computing. This happens all the time. Yet, these companies are reporting the revenue as if they were paid. Then you have the diagram Bloomberg shared where it's all a shell game. They're turning any money back to another company that then buys more hardware, and at the center of it all is NVIDIA. I'll come back to them. None of this is actually wealth being generated, just an exchange that hasn't generated anything of value yet. The financial reports are bogus, as they are spending money they were paid by money they spent, and claiming it's revenue. All it's doing is inflating the bubble, which is doomed either way. Let's say they succeed. So, they lay off masses of people who are now on unemployment subsidies, and they no longer have money to invest or purchase any services. This leads to the smaller companies going under, and bad debt with the larger companies. This grows in scale, and at the same time people are disgruntled at being mistreated and now desperate. So, that means boycotting and potentially organized opposition. People will only take so much, and the governments can only sustain so much new unemployment. Yet we're rushing forward for dominance, and let's be completely honest, rampant greed. How far does it go before there's violence? How many people have to suffer and families starve? This is a complete form of economic repression, and the only way this could work is if it's a gradual transition. This is the catastrophic success of AI. So, then what if the bubble bursts? Then this all slows down to a near halt. The economy can go through the recession or depression that it should be in. The transition, assuming AI is genuinely capable of doing half what they claim, is forced to be at a rational pace that is sustainable economically. The hardware market completely crashes. However, eventually everything can recover from the damage they've already done. This is the best possible outcome we can hope for, sadly. The signs are already there that it's beginning to fail. Sorragon, Microsoft backing off Copilot, and more will follow. Yet it's sorely needed. Back to NVIDIA. This is where I think someone ought to take a look. I would love to see someone take a journalist approach to them and dig just as deeply as this was with OpenAI. I think what would be found is that Jensen is the ringleader here. Altman is just a pawn compared to Jensen, as Jensen is profiting from everyone remotely involved with AI. Not to mention that he is really gifted at overhyping a product. If you look into the consumer side of GPUs, you can't take anything he says about his products at face value. NVIDIA is notorious for misrepresenting performance data, sales, and production data. Just do a simple web search, and you'll quickly see what I mean. Things like 4090 performance for $549. Except there was almost nothing to buy, and when there was, it certainly wasn't available for that price. Also, the performance was artificial, both that it's actually cutting corners in how it works, and that the 4090 was restricted by excluding the feature in the software drivers. Nothing about it was true. Then you have things like 50 series has exceeded the 40 series in the same time frame. If you research it, you will find that the 40 series only had the top-of-the-line, most expensive product available in that time frame, and the 4080 had only been released for 2 weeks instead of months. Meanwhile, the 50 series launched with 3 series of GPUs that came much closer to the middle-market products. Of course, all 3 were on the higher end of the market, but still a broader approach. Plus, I say launched because the entire US retail was given somewhere around 5,000 GPUs for launch day. Oh, lastly, you can also discover how NVIDIA ceased production of the previous generation 40 series GPUs back in November 2024, the biggest time of the year for consumer retail. This starved the GPU market, where you could only find the lowest-end products in stores. Thus, the demand was artificially created by NVIDIA. They were supposedly building a surplus of the 50 series for launch that never came to light. All deceptions came directly from Jensen himself. So if there's all this hardware with nowhere to go, and yet we're facing massive price increases and hardware shortages, where is the hardware going? Do we really think it's all sitting in some warehouse waiting for years before deployment, and the companies still want them? This is where it seems like something is going on that just does not add up. Separately, the memory industry has already been tried and found guilty of artificially raising prices by collaborating. So, this begs to question, is this even real? Or is it a subterfuge to justify insane price increases, so the hardware companies can both make more money, NVIDIA gets its cut, and the consumers are propping up AI development? I don't know, and this is just a wild theory, but with everything they say versus reality, it begs to question.
At Eric_EV0 wrote,
The problem with these AI enterprises are that they are not creating AI in our image, they do it in their image. Well said, Karen. Great interview. We need the world to stop moving as a collective, as a unanimous decision, in order to start assessing systems and problems we currently have and decide together how to move forward in the best way possible for everyone and all life. Without this halt and without this deep collective, despite our difference, contemplation, and readjustment, there will never be true peace and prosperity in our world. AI specifically is being pushed too far and too fast for us to ever catch up. The world is not prepared, and those at the helm will profit and figuratively live further away in their isolated towers of Babel. Away from the folk who got the short end of the stick, away from those who chose to do the right thing despite not benefiting from that decision, away from the absence of luxury that they fear.
Smoky Jasius wrote,
I've been saying all this for a long time. AI is never going to think for itself. It's been around since the 70s, maybe even longer. It's just another computer language interface, that's all.
Phantasm wrote,
Man, as soon as she opens her mouth, she says climate change, and I lost all interest. How can I take anyone seriously if they believe that hoax?
Zentech N6V wrote,
This has to be the 5th time I have watched this podcast in recent weeks, where Stephen repeatedly emphasizes his distaste for his employees. It's very off-putting. Perhaps he needs to improve his skills of discernment as he continues to hire unqualified employees. Is this a sign of his own professional deficiencies?
Maybe they need to replace him as a leader.
At ET2792 wrote,
Probably the biggest misunderstanding regarding AI is that more production is always better. There's a functional cap on what we can use. This is much more true when it comes to intellectual property. Material production is already capped on resources, also not discussed. The second biggest misunderstanding regarding AI is its separation between the product and the cost. Sure, it's cool to spend a day context crafting and then getting your agent to develop some kind of application that would take you a week on your own. However, the thing it produces almost never actually addresses a real problem in a way that can offset the resources that went into that expenditure. This is much more true if we had to pay for all the doom scroll slop or AI porn getting generated without addressing the resource cost. And that leads into the third big misunderstanding. AI depends on humans leveraging meaning to make something valuable. Plot twist, humans are actually not creative or good at attributing meaning beyond things that contribute to or threaten survival. None of that addressed here, and it's brutally cringe to see people claiming to be intelligent who can't hold discussions about the real issues at hand.
At Municat wrote,
When people are not working, they don't have money to spend, or income levels are reduced. So does spending, and then goes consumer purchasing. AI is replacing higher paid work, destroying the middle class.
At SBDit wrote,
24. Zero fear is why we keep growing AI. One company doesn't use, they fear the one that does will put them out of business. Same concept goes for countries who don't use it for fear military.
At Seriasophis 405 wrote,
Machines are not intelligent, bro, and can't make stupid-ass people smart. Who just cuts and pastes and copies. AI is a perfect crime. Let China get more dumbed down. Using AI. Language models are nothing but words. What is intelligence is human experience.
At Eternal Glory 9088 wrote,
How useful the Klarna CEO being able to get on and toe the line. Also, his revenue has doubled. So how much more are his remaining employees getting paid after all these savings?
At Simoon 5661 wrote,
There's got to be a hidden agenda of the data centers. There are simply WAYTOO, many of them. The centers alone go against all reasoning used to push other industries' jobs. Green energy, environment. The centers break all these rules by a landslide. Using more water, more energy, more nuclear, more light and noise pollution, more expensive, more harm to land and endangered species, and they are going to every state in the US and around the world. It makes no logical sense. There's got to be some other reason they are pushing for these, and the need for them placed at every pocket around the globe every 100 miles or so. The strategic placement of even distribution and the quantity is a huge red flag. There's something else going on at these centers.
At Kingsley Alex 1749 wrote,
God bless you, Steve, and the guest you are always bringing to the channel. God will never let both you and the guest hard work be in vain.
At James Rowling wrote,
I'm a truck driver, and I was told 10 years ago that we would have self-driving big rigs and my career would be over. I'm still here driving and making six figures.
A dumbest guy in the room wrote,
152 sounds like CCP slopoganda. Here's why we should slow down, and everything is bad if we don't, and everything is good if we do. Shit-ass premise.
At Siphonix Audio wrote,
33. 28Y are the proper names of people not capitalized. Any literate human in English knows that if I write Sam Altman It's wrong. Ashley Vance. Keech Hadji. Are we to think Sam is illiterate or lazy?
Ed Francis Godzinski wrote,
People want to interact with other people. The problem is that people are not a priority in AI. Money and power are the main motivators for these companies and countries. It's gone beyond customer satisfaction, or customer is always right. This is just gonna bowl over everybody and everything. At this point, it's too late to really do anything, so sit tight, and hopefully wave will roll over you, and you won't get hurt.
At Little Fella Dynamics wrote,
Read SEOF Rust. A brilliant sci-fi novel by C. Robert Cargill warns of a probable outcome when humanity comes to rely on immense AI models called one-world intelligences. Yes, let's not do it this way, please.
At Whowhat6613 wrote,
About views and subscribers. I am guilty of often watching your show on YT on TV, but I refuse to log in and connect everything to the internet. However, I have subscribed to your channel with 3 different accounts. Perhaps some of the non-subscribed viewers are doing the same?
At Russell8394 wrote,
The reason because they sell AGI is because the tech companies really don't want us to note they basically Coca-Cola. Google, it's a publicity agency. Amazon, an infrastructure cloud service provider. Solid, stable incomes. But that don't justify that P/E at all. So they hype the future to boost the current price of the stock. Because this Silicon Valley and Wall Street guys lives not from a profitable business, but from keeping the price of the stock high.
At Flumpit38 wrote,
Excellent choice of guest. Really great perspective and the other side of the argument from the AI folks we've seen on here before. Thanks for giving her your platform to speak from. That was a great listen.
At XJustJX wrote,
This interviewer is so annoying. How do you live on this planet for this long and don't know what an imperialist is? I don't even get the feeling he is asking these questions because he knows his audience might not know what it is, so he is just asking for clarification on their behalf. He is asking because he is genuinely clueless.
At Lucia Arkwright wrote,
Use AIs to create what doesn't exist yet. Consuming meaningless interaction with AIs is mere another waste of attention. Guilty of this, but once you shift the balance, the dynamic turns different and vastly better ESP, with local models.
At LeeGainer177 wrote,
I've watched many of these DOAC interviews, because the guests are great. In this one, Karen Hao comes across brilliantly and very credible. The lady wants to have a conversation. The interviewer does not too much name-dropping, swiftly moving to the next question if he does not agree with what's being said, and taking a phone call mid-interview.
At Darandavies wrote,
Agreed. It's easy to get addicted, and the companies that are profiting by it are hoping we do. Everyone has an agenda. I can understand the AI company agenda. Karen, what's your agenda?
At Shahassan285 wrote,
I absolutely love your channel, my friend. This is one of 2 channels I watch. This and Ryan Shaw Show. That's it. So thank you for doing what you're doing. Bless.
At Liberty or Death 7230 wrote,
325. So she starts her crusade because many of the problems in the world that need to be solved are not profitable, like climate change. Yeah, it's not profitable, because you've been fed a lie.
At Lunius wrote,
This is the primary case in point of MY problem with AI. It's a sweeping form of new tech being pushed upon humanity. And when such technology is central to this endeavor, it's a mechanism of control to control people, environments, economies, cultures, outcomes. Another aspect of point is this. When looking the data set of children in school, and their level of results because of the huge level of tech inclusion in the curriculum. Overall numbers show a dumbing down effect. Too much reliance upon tech is hurting humanity in the long term. When there is a minimization of person-to-person interaction and teaching, it all eventually goes to pot. Unless this mad rush to the empire of tech is aggressively pruned and put in check, humanity is doomed.
Carol Kozak, 64, wrote,
I absolutely despise AI because it makes stupid PPLs seem like they are worth something. And then 3, 4. PPL need to check the BS they produced. This is FC Keen cancer. And sorry but. Now even Jenny, who could not complete elementary school, is applying for SR jobs like she's been working with freaking NASA or something. Kids are getting dumber. Adults are getting lazier. Everyone demands a paycheck without even moving a finger. Also, IFC Keen hate chatbots and call center agents. I had to call this delivery company the other day because my package got stuck for 3 weeks at some depot without any movement. I had to talk to 20 minutes to an AI who freaking could not understand my prompts. In the end, I kept repeating, I need to talk to a real human at your company. And then we figured out in 3 minutes. No FC Kingway.
At Madar 0314 wrote,
What's scary stupid about Klarna CEO is exactly every science fiction horror movie has in it. Grease, dude isn't utilizing AI to make things better and easier for all sides involved. It's just a revenue machine. He can promote AI easily to other businesses through that he has half the workers to pay and double the revenue. But did workers get paid more? Are customers being served better? Nah, it's all about making more money for those on top, meaning jobs taken by AI won't enable us to do simply other job and get paid similarly or more there. Nah, they'll just use AI to replace workers and squeeze more and more so they make more money. The ones on top, AI is just another mean for rich to be richer and poor to be poor.
At Cyprian Tiganescu, 6386 wrote,
The Antichrist is coming in no matter what you do, and the only way he can control the whole world is through AI. The only way out of this is Jesus Christ.
Jagtanji wrote,
If everything can go back in time, wonder who AI will choose. Orange Man or a dementia, selling a program as AI is certainly the best sales gimmick of the century.
Pope Antichrist 8847 wrote,
What y'all don't realize is that AI was given to us from the military. The military has had AI since the 50s. What we Joe Public have is for kindergartners.
GY Fox wrote,
Elon can be tricked because the guy is just a finance and marketing guy. Technicals have never been his thing. There are lots of half-witted folk who follow him like he knows what he's talking about. A VC who constructed a narrative and has cult follow. Altman is also morally bankrupt. Don't trust either of them. Matter of fact, no one should trust the future of humanity with guys who don't even appreciate being human.
At No Chauffeur Network wrote,
1:33:44 The only coming together that humans will ultimately have to do if we want to survive, however most will be reluctance, is taking down these AI empires before they initiate our extinction. The same way we are doing to the animals of this planet. Karma will be a but autonomous bitch.
At Dead Karen Storage wrote,
Her intonation pronouncing threatened as thray-ind slides far too often into a coy upward inflection. She's also evasive and full of boring irrelevant inside baseball. In other words, she's a narc.
Estradisky wrote,
We need this activist to move from reactionary to visionary and lead by speaking about what she sees as the counterbalance. There are many problems, yet catastrophic cognitive distortions are not the answer.
Move into problem solving as a lifestyle and tack everyone to do the same.
Zorg 3 wrote,
Altman is of Jewish descent, and his technological connection to Israel is evident in his interactions with Israeli business leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to discuss Israel's role in the artificial intelligence AI revolution. He has stated that Israel will play a major role in this field. No further comment.
At Rachel Turnbull M4B wrote,
If they wanted to cure cancer, they would just stop putting poison in our food. Why would they want to cure a deliberately created for-profit solution?
At Zephyrin Skies wrote,
It's so clear they don't care if AI destroys humanity and makes life worse for everyone. They want to be the ones in control of it, and be the lords of a dystopian wasteland if that's what it takes. It's blind, selfish ambition at the cost of everyone else. They don't care about the future as long as they get to enjoy the spoils in their lifetime. They're complete psychos and will do and say anything to achieve this end. People in the public who are not part of their club that fall for this are like people that fall for a cult leader even if it will ruin their lives because they can't let go of the cope.
Tyrell Luckett Z2Q wrote,
This is real disruption. There's no slowing it down and nobody is coming to hold hands through it. But the dangerous part is the mindset shift that's not happening. If you stay in an employee mindset, this becomes a death spiral. AI isn't just taking jobs. It's forcing a decision, adapt and leverage, or get pushed into low-value work like annotation. It's not just working skills, it's social skills. What stands out is this: business is just human connection plus value. So the move isn't to compete with AI at the lowest level, it's to use AI to scale what you already know how to do. Historically, before the industrial era, most people operated as independent producers. We may not go all the way back, but we're clearly shifting toward a world where more people have to think like operators, not employees. I'm blue-collar and use AI daily. There's a clear difference between using AI as a tool to amplify skill and producing end-to-end human out-of-the-loop AI slop with no real value. One compounds. The other dies. The real opportunity isn't surviving AI, it's stacking it on top of real skills and turning that into leverage.
At Archer00 wrote,
2105 This is exactly what I've been afraid of and angry about when it comes to AI for as long as I remember caring. These people have a specific idea of what humans are, and via their AI models are effectively going to enforce that view upon us. It doesn't matter how autonomous they call or make it. AI is eventually a way for humans to oppress other humans. In this case, among other things, with a stupendously dumb and narrow-minded hypothesis of what human intelligence and life is. It doesn't matter if you're religious, atheist, agnostic, or anything in between somewhere, or even agree with their hypothesis, we cannot risk humanity over a fucking hypothesis. Not for 25%, not for 10%, and not for 1%. Everyone should oppose these AI developments.
At Boom Shankanil wrote,
So it's only catastrophe because they lying about all the potential. That's totally BS. We have better solutions with living on Earth with less like 1800. BS and dangerous.
At Light_Worker wrote,
Stephen, I enjoy your broadcasts and I am subscribed. I have been wondering something though. You often mention growing the channel, even with such a large audience already that is 15.5 million subscribers. As a small creator trying to reach even 1,000 subscribers, it makes me curious, what does growth mean for you at this level? I would genuinely love to understand your perspective.
At Missing Link, HB9OV wrote,
This will be a future episode.
if we live through the next 50 years of Reason TV, great moments in unintended consequences. AI takes over all mundane tasks and decides humans are ineffective and inefficient. It is kind of funny, she thinks, that AI is not the pursuit of profit like just about everything else in the world, past and present.
At Michael_V49 wrote,
Anyone else consider she may be a sleeper agent from China? She wants America to slow down, regulate, think of the environment, jobs, human fairness, but not once did she mention China, which she is and her parent are immigrants of. I say this because China isn't slowing down at all. Not one bit.
Tina Higherlove wrote,
Okay, my 2 cents. AI, if left unchecked as is, will be the downfall of humanity. I work in medical billing and thought it was bad enough that most insurance companies for the US have outsourced overseas. But no, the AI you are forced to speak with now when you call insurance is terrible. And there are people behind the scenes who are training the AI. You can ask to speak to a human, but you will not. They say they are human, but are training the AI, and the AI does not usually sound human, and it F's up what you say when it repeats it back to you. I have seen job postings for people to actually train AI. Why would any sane human want to train machines to eliminate jobs? From what I see, AI is going to replace a majority of jobs, except for maybe restaurant workers and cleaning houses, though there is a cafe I heard about near me that has robots serving people. No desire to see that unless it's Rosie cleaning my house. Again, robots are being trained to do these menial jobs. I can say menial because I've done them and have no desire to go back to that in my 50s. I don't know who that Sebastian guy is that he spoke with, but if he's a CEO, of course he is optimistic, because the rich are getting richer by eliminating jobs, which are very hard to come by these days, and the mass layoffs are happening more frequently. Humans have an obligation to stand up against this. People need to get off their cell phones and stop being lazy and do something before things get even worse. The problem is so many don't see how addicted they are and how they are being affected. And I'm listening to this from my PC as I clean my house and do laundry, and only stop to add my thoughts. Cell phones were great for emergencies, but are another contributor to the downfall of humanity. Maybe we should start focusing more on how we can make changes to benefit our lives. So much on media these days is negative. Focusing on it only brings more of it. I wish everyone a blessed day and blessed life.
At Vardon Sangreal wrote,
AI is regressing. You must have noticed it. I've been running anonymous baseline questions, and it's getting dimmer. Either giving multiple stacked answers all wrong, or following up with endless loops of questions.
At Nicholas Nickel wrote,
So essentially, in order for China to win the AI race, they have to send people to convince Americans that the AI is a bubble in US. LOL.
At Jesse Love 3715 wrote,
Linus Torvald did not say any such thing back in November/December. What he said is that he does not use it personally, but it is similar to the breakthroughs offered by IDE's PyCharm VS Code. That AI has a place in coding and it's changing things, and he is curious to see how it goes.
Pike_Drew wrote,
I've reached out to my city council, mayor's office, and every politician at the state level to express concerns over the large data centers coming to my state/area. I've also formally contacted all environmental and conservation agencies in my state. Everyone can do the same if they're concerned.
At Patrick Linzer 6707 wrote,
Your AI's recommendation for me right at the end is utter rubbish. I have absolutely no interest in watching that.
You should include a user feedback mechanism to gauge the validity of its recommendations. P.S. Please stop misusing the phrase beg the question. It's a direct older English translation of the Latin term petitio principii. You might want to Google that. Its pervasive abuse has resulted in dictionaries, especially U.S. dictionaries, of late, including the incorrect meaning it accrued through this abuse. Consult a dictionary from 30 plus years ago, preferably in the form of a printed book, and you'll find what it actually means. And it's not like prompt raise provoke the question is any more cumbersome or awkward.
Charmed by God wrote,
12230 when CEO of Klarna said two things can be true at the same time. That's a classic ChatGPT line. So his assistant has been replaced by AI too.
Athanasios Psiexi Sigma wrote,
Great episode. It feels like we are speed racing to a society where only rich business owners will survive. But without ensuring that everyone can start a business and equitable access to models, we are effectively locking everyone who does not have that privilege to being poor, not work, not reproduce, and eventually rely on social assistance no company will pay for. Fast-tracked societal collapse for the benefit of the few. The sad part is, do these people just not understand that when society inevitably collapses, no one will be left with the purchasing power to buy their crap?
At Michael_V49 wrote,
She completely changed the conversation after Sebastian's phone call with Steven. This is what happens when you talk out of your ass and don't know what you are talking about.
At Daniel Voglertime wrote,
A lot of good points I agree with and lots of respect to her for speaking out and being so eloquent about it. However, I stopped watching when she said full, autonomous cars will never go mainstream. She clearly doesn't understand the exponential learning curve and adaptability of physical world AI.
At Let's Pump It Up wrote,
But Wall ST loves a vehicle to make money, and thus they poison the minds of the Silicon Valley CEOs/leaders to slave drive by all means to get profits as soon as possible, i.e., the speed of the race.
At Carlaskova 6591 wrote,
I feel like we are living a Don't Look Up movie moment in our society. Literally. It's amazing how polarized our opinions about AI. And even if you believe the dangers, if you stop using AI, you become obsolete. I think the horse is out of the barn.
At Eric VR wrote,
Great interview as always, Steven. You should get Mira Murati on, since she's ex-OpenAI and has now signed a multi-year contract with NVIDIA. There's a lot to dig in there.
Teachamon2Fish88 wrote,
Has AI LLM actually functionally replaced a human in any high-stakes area? I work in the law, and I can say with a foot in each camp AI and the law that it's not going to happen anytime soon. AI can't do anything useful or high stakes, and it never will able to.
At Brian Miller Thomas wrote,
Well, Stephen, you've been well and truly fished in Barry's economics. Doke is making you less successful. Now, it's true that teachers, nurses, and firefighters don't appear that often on your shows that I've seen, which might lead some to think wealth is your only measurement of success. So why don't you invite Barry on your podcast and answer the charges? Like, why do you beg everyone to subscribe? So you'll be even better off?